So welcome all to the first activity of the Spring Framework lesson. So in this one, we are going to develop a simple Spring MVC application. So let's see how we're going to do it. So I think we have discussed what are the steps that we need to follow when you are going to configure the Spring environment. That means when you are going to develop an application using Spring and Spring Framework, and then so we are going to develop this application. So we will go through the steps. So we have discussed that first we need to create a Maven project. So then first I will create a Maven project. So you can go to new and you can select Maven project and next, and here so I will select this Maven archetype web type and artifact ID. So I will give the artifact ID as the activity name. So this is activity 8. And I'm going to click finish. So until it's creating, so I will go to the Maven repository because we need to add some dependencies here. So I will go to Maven repository. So here first in my environment, so I need to add this java x dot servlet. So I'm going to get that dependency Java Servlet API. So this is one dependency, so I'm going to add it. So still my project is not created. Okay, now it created. So this is my activity 8, and so we need to add this dependency into our form.xml file. So this is a dependency. Okay, so then I'm going to update my project, Maven update project. So once I update my project, so you can see that that error is not there. So that is the first step. So the next step we have discussed after creating this web application. So we need to add this dependency because here we are going to use Spring MVC framework. So therefore we are having this Spring web MVC as a external library into our project. So that's the external library, so we need to add that one. So we are going to add it through the dependencies under this form.xml file. So we will go to the Maven repository and we will select Spring web MVC. Okay, it should be web MVC. Okay, so it's Spring web MVC. So I'm going to select the latest MVC stable version, so we can use. So this will be the stable version, and the stable Spring MVC version, so I'm going to use that one, and I will add that as a dependency again into my form.xml file. And again I will update my main project. So now I completed that step as well. So we will go to the next one. So the next we need to create the necessary project structure. So we have discussed that in a normal Spring MVC project. So we are going to use some packages like these configurations to add some configurations related to this Spring framework and controller and entity. Other than that, you might remember that we have discussed we are going to have another package called service and another package called DAO. So we will create all these packages now. Here this is my first package. So I'm going to first I'm going to enable Java folder here. So I will go to the properties here, and this Java build path, I'm going to select my Java runtime environment, and I will select it as a workspace default Java runtime environment. Then click finish, apply and close. So now you can see the source main Java path here. So under that I'm going to create a new package. So my package name is Spring App Configuration, and other than that I'm going to create another package called Spring App Entity, and another one that's Spring App Controller. After that so we have discussed that we need to have another two packages here. One is a service package and the other one is data access object package. Okay, and our view, so we are going to add our view into this web.inf folder. So then the users can't directly access this view. So then every time we are going to pass the view through the controller. So I'm going to this source main web app. So under that we are having this index, but I'm going to create another folder under this web.inf folder. So I will name this as views and I will put this index.jsp into this views. Okay, so that is the package structure, and then we will move to the next step. So here, so we are going to create the configuration class. So we have discussed that we are having two types of configuration. So one is the root configuration, another one is servlet configuration. So first we will create this root configuration file. So this is how we are going to create the root configuration file. So I will go here and I'm going the configurations. Under that I'm going to create new Java class called root app config. So this will be the root configuration file. So since this is a configuration file, so I'm going to add annotation called configuration. Okay, so then it will be a configuration file. So the root configuration file we are using to add the application wide configurations. So then in this level, so we don't have any configurations, so therefore we will keep it as empty. Then the next one is we are going to add another configuration. So that will be the servlet configuration file. So we are normally naming this as web app config, or so we can give another name as well, but in this case we will use web app config as the name of this one, and this is again a configuration file, so therefore I'm going to add the annotation configuration. And so this is web MVC application, so therefore I'm going to add this enable enable web MVC. So I'm going to enable the configurations related to MVC, and then so we need to tell where our components are, because in our MVC application, so we are going to have some components like the controllers, services, repositories. Likewise, we are going to add some components into our application. So first we need to mention where our components are. So we are having annotation called component scan. So we are going to use this component scan here, and then we need to tell what's the base package name. So here the base package, in my case, so this will be the base package, so I'm going to give it here like this. Okay, so now under this one, so we know that we need to create one bean method here. So that is we are normally naming this as internal resource view resolver. So that means so we are going to tell where our resource, that means where our views are. So then once we are passing the view name from the controller side, so then the this dispatcher servlet view resolver can get the correct view from by using this bean object. So therefore we are going to configure that thing here. So we will add it like this: public internal resource view resolver. So we will name this as view resolver. So the method name is view resolver. So this is a bean object, so therefore I will first add the annotation bean. So that means the output of this method will be registered as a bean object in this environment. So then I'm going to create internal view resolver called resolver. So then new internal view resolver, and then so I'm going to put resolver dot set prefix. So prefix means the pre part. So here my views are in this web inf views. Okay, and then so we are going to have the suffix as well. So that means we need to mention which technology we are using. That means what will be the extension, file extension. So that will be JSP, because I'm using the JSP as the technology. So then after that I'm going to return this resolver here. So that means once I'm returning this resolver, so this resolver will be registered as an bean object in my environment, because I have mentioned this as a bean object. Okay, now both configurations, that means the root app configuration and web app configuration, so both are completed. So now let's see what's the next step. So after creating these two configurations, so then we need to add another configuration, so that is related to the dispatcher servlet. So in this case we are going to use the Spring's class called abstract annotation config dispatcher servlet initializer class here. So I'm going to create another configuration here. I'm another class, so we will name this class as dispatcher servlet. So here I'm going to create this dispatcher servlet by extending this abstract annotation. Okay, so using this one. So here you can see that it's having some unimplemented methods, so I'm going to implement these ones. So here first we need to tell what is the root config class we are having here. So here the root config class, so we need to mention. So we are going to return a new class so we are going to return a new array of classes here, and okay, that will be our root class, so that is root appconfig class. Okay, so this is what we are going to return as the root config class, and again we need to return the servlet config class, so that is what we have mentioned as web app config. So I'm going to name this as web app config class. Okay, and then the other thing is get servlet mapping. So here the servlet mapping is we are going to get the root, that means we are going to return a new string here. So here this string will be this, that means so if we are getting any request to our server, so then this dispatcher servlet will handle this request. So these are the three configurations that we need to add into our environment. So I will format this code. Okay, so now let's move to the next step. So after creating this configuring this dispatcher servlet, so now we need to create the controller. So here you can see that so we are having so we are going to have a controller annotation as the controller in the controller class. So in Spring, so we are going to create those as Java classes, and then we are going to add the annotation controller. So I'm going to create controller now. So we will create a Java class called welcome controller. So here now this is a controller, so therefore I'm going to use the annotation controller. So now this will become the controller. So now we will add some methods to this controller. So here, so in this case, so we are going to create a method here. So that will be so we will name this method as get home. So you can give any other name, so I will name this as get home. So here I'm going to return my home page, so I will name this as home. So here the home, so I will go to my views folder, and the views folder I'm going to right click, and after that I'm going to rename this as home. So then so this will be my home page. So I'm going to so once I once I request something, so then I'm going to call to my home. Okay, so here I need to map to which request I am going to call to this method. So that thing we can do by using another annotation, so that is get mapping. Okay, so here I can mention, so what's the mapping. So that means if I'm getting the route, that means if I'm getting a request for to my website, so then I'm going to call to this get home page. So now so we have completed few more so we have completed the initial steps that we need to have here. So now we will run this one and we will see whether our application is working. So I'm going to run this one now. So I will go to run as and run on server, and I'm going to select the server here, and we will click finish. Okay, so I'm having some issue with my Tomcat. So let's okay, and I'm going to start. Okay, it's not working, so I will just stop my Apache and MySQL for a while, and then I will close my Eclipse, and again I will start. Okay, let's try to start this Tomcat server. Okay, I am getting the issue again. So let's see what is this error first. So now I have resolved my issue. So now my Tomcat service is working. So I will up my Apache and MySQL servers. Actually the problem was not this Apache or MySQL. So I had some projects which were actually listed in this Tomcat, but I have removed those from my Eclipse environment. So that's the problem. So after cleaning those things, so now my service is working. So now it's started. So let's run our project. So I'm going to run this project. Okay, now you can see I'm getting the hello world. So that is my home page. So this is my home page. So I'll go to source, main, web app, and my home page is under views. So now this is my home page, so I'm getting that one. So that is the first part, and after that so we have discussed here. So so now we are getting this one. So now we have discussed that we are going to use the Hibernate as the framework here to connect with the database. So therefore we need to add some additional dependencies here. So one is this Spring ORM, object relational mapping library, and Hibernate core and Hibernate validator, and MySQL connector. So that will be the JDBC driver to connect with the MySQL server. So those are the additional dependencies we need to add. So let's add those dependencies here. So I'm going to the main repository, and first I need to add this ORM. So that is Spring ORM. So it should be Spring okay. So Spring ORM. So here I'm going to select this one, this table version, and I'm going to add it into my pom.xml under the dependencies. And then the next one is Hibernate core. And here I'm going to use Hibernate 5 series and add like this. Then so we are going to use Hibernate validator here. And here, so I'm going to select a validator, this one. And again after that, after adding this Hibernate core and Hibernate validator, so I need to add this MySQL JDBC connector as well. So here I'm going to get that one. So MySQL connector Java. So we'll use this 8 series, and I'm going to add that as well. Okay, so now I have added all the dependencies, and now I'm going to update. So now first I will format this one. Okay, so after that I'm going to update my project. Okay, so now we have added the dependencies. So now let's see how we are going to develop the other part of this application. So first thing is we need to configure this Hibernate framework with this Spring environment. So now we have configured the Spring, but now we need to add some additional configurations into our root config file, because the application wide we need to have this Hibernate configured environment. So therefore first we are going to add these configurations. So that is the first thing. So after adding this one, so first we need to add the data source. So this is also a bean object, so I'm going to add this data source here. So we need to go to the root tab config, and here so I'm going to add the data source. And so we need to add okay, so the drive is com.mysql JDBC driver, no issues, but I need to create another database called activity 8 here. So I will go to my PHP myadmin interface. Okay, let's see, my MySQL is working. Okay, yes, the problem with the port. So here I'm going to create a database called activity 8, and so this is the code to create the table. So I will run this one. Okay, so now I have created this activity 8 database with the user table. Okay, so now here the table name is activity 8. So after that, after adding this data source, so I need to add two other configurations. One is the session factory. So under the Hibernate framework, we have discussed that we need to have a session factory. So using the session factory, so we are going to create some sessions, and after that only we can run some transactions. So therefore first we need to configure the session factory, and also we need to add some Hibernate properties here. So I'm going to add those configurations into this root app config. So here this is okay, and so in this this is again a bean object. So under that we need to mention, so what is the data source and what are the packages that we need to start. We need to scan here to find these entities. So this is where our entities are, and after that so we are going to add some Hibernate properties. So here under the properties we are going to add this Hibernate dialect, because we need to mention what kind of communication we need to have from Hibernate to the database. That means what kind of database that we are going to use in this one. So in our case it is MySQL, so therefore I am using the dialect as MySQL dialect. Okay, so that's finished, and after that step, so we need to add this transaction management, because so now we are going to have some database interactions. So that means we are going to connect to the database. So therefore we are going to enable this transaction management. So we are going to add this into our root config file, because this should be available application wide. So therefore I'm going to this root config file, and here after the configuration, so I'm going to add this annotation. So then this transaction management is enabled now under this configuration 1. And the other thing is, so we need to create this transaction manage bean object now. So I'm going to add it into the root config file like this. So this is the normal way that we are creating this transaction manager in this Spring environment. So I'm going to add that part as well. So now that is again a bean object. So that means once I called this method, so the object which is actually creating that means the return value of this method will be registered as a bean object. So now after completing that step, so now so we are going to add these service interfaces. So in this case, actually what we are going to do in this activity, so we are going to save this user information to the database, but before that we need to have an entity class as well. So we will develop this entity class. So I'm going to the entities, and here so I'm going to create a new class called user, and I'm going to implement this by using a serializable interface. And here we will have a private, so we will go to the database. So here we are having these values. So I will copy these things and I will paste those here. So private ID, so this will be an int ID. Okay, so this will be an auto increment one. So therefore we know that we are using the annotation style to create entity. So first we are going to add the annotation entity, and after that we need to mention what is the table. So here the name of the table we can mention as user, so that is the name of the table. And then so this will be the ID field, and this will be generated value. And so we need to mention the strategy here. So the strategy will be a primary key, so therefore it should be identity. So now so we are mentioning the strategy like this, and then we need to mention what is the associated column with this one. So here we can give the name of the column. So here the name of the column will be ID again. Okay, so private ID, and then we are having private string first name. So again likewise we are having private string last name, username, password. Okay, so here we need to mention what are the columns. So this will be first name, this will be last name, this will be username, and this will be password. So after that we need to add no argument construct as well. So I'm going to source, and I'm going to select this generate constructor from superclass, and I'm going to create it, and I'm going to remove this part. And then we need to put getters and setters here. So you can go to the source and you can select this generate getters and setters. So I'm going to generate getters and setters for all these fields like this. So now this will be our entity class. So now I'm going to create a service for this application. So one service here is we are going to register, so therefore I'm going to create a class called user service. So under user service, so I'm going to create a method register. Okay, so this should be an interface. Okay, so we have discussed that first we need to have an interface. So I'm going to okay, so this will be this should be an interface. Okay, so here we are not going to return anything here. Okay, so we will return whether the user registered correctly or not. So we will return a boolean here, and this will be register. Okay, so now we are going to implement a class using this interface. So I'm going to add another Java class here, so that will be user service implementation. So this is the implementation of the user service. So we are going to implement it by using user service, and here we need to implement the unimplement method, so that will be the register. So here for now we will keep it like this, and then we are moving to our next one, so that is the DAO. So here also we have discussed that first we are going to add an interface. So here I will add the interface as a user DAO, and this is again an interface. and here we are having a method to register. So now we are going to implement this interface. So again we are going to add another Java class here, so that is user DAO implementation, and this will implement by using user DAO. So here also we are having some unimplemented methods, and that is register. Okay, so now we are going to implement the register one. So here we have discussed that we are going to use Hibernate. So when you are going to use the Hibernate, you might remember that we are using a session. So once we have created the session, so we are using this session dot save kind of method to save this user to the database. So in this case actually we need to pass this user object from the outside, so therefore we need to change this interface little bit, because this method is actually getting user object from the outside. Okay, so now we need to change it here as well. Okay, like this. Now here first we need to get the current session. So we will create a session object. So this will be a current session, and so to get this current session, so we are going to get this current session using session factory object. So we have mentioned that so this session factory object, so it's actually under our configuration file. So you might remember that here we are having a method called session factory. So this will output, that means this will return a session factory object. So this object will be saved, that means registered as a bean object here. So therefore here we are going to create a property session. So we will create a private property here. So private session factory object called session factory. Okay, so now in this case, so we are going to we are going to link that bean object to here. So here in Spring, so we can use this auto wired annotation and to wire that object bean object into this place. So now we can use this session factory here, and then we are going to call this get current session. So then so we can get current session here, then we can get the session. Okay, so once we got this session, so then we can use this session. So here that's saved under this current session, so we can use this current session, and we can call to this save method, and we can save this user to the database. So that will be the saving part. So this is our user DAO, data access object. So now we are going to access this one through the service, because we have discussed that in between the controller and the DAO layer, so we are having this service layer. So we are going to access this DAO layer through the service layer. So therefore we will move to the service, and in service also actually I forgot to add this use object. So here also we need to add it like this. Okay, now in this case, so we are going to connect with this user DAO, so therefore we need to have a property called user DAO here, and that will be again user DAO object, and we are going to wire this object here. Now now what we are doing here is, so we are going to use a try catch block here, try catch block, and so if we can do the saving part, so that means once we call to this user DAO dot register, so if it work well, so then we are going to return true here. Else, so that means if any error occurred, so then we are going to return false here. Okay, so that's how we are going to implement this service. So since we are going to run some transactions now, so we need to add annotation here. Actually we forgot to add annotation, so here this will be a service, so we need to add this service annotation, and this one will be, again we forgot to add the annotation here as well, so this will be a repository, so we need to add so repository, this will be a repository. Okay, so now a service, and here we need to add the transactional one, because we are going to have some transactions, so that means we are going to do some transactions in this level. Okay, so that's the service layer. So now we are going to communicate with this service layer through our controller. So our controller, so that is welcome controller. Okay, so through our controller, so we are going to communicate, and before that we need to develop this interface. So I'm going to the home.jsp here, and so this will be this is the place that we are going to add this interface. So this will be the interface. So since I have already created this interface, now I'm not going to create it, I'm going to get it from my previous work. Okay, now this will be the registration form. So I'm here having a link called register. So now we need to add this register link in the controller side as well. So now if we are calling to the web application, so without giving any path, so then we are going to use this one. But when you are going to save something, so we are actually calling to another path, so that is register. Okay, so here you can see that here we are having register, so I'm going to use that path here. But now we are not using get, so we are using post here. So you can see the method here, so that's the post. So in this case I'm using so I'm going to remove this get mapping, and I'm going to add post mapping. Okay, and so I'm going to change this method name, so I will change this name as register. Okay, so now we are going to register here. So when you're going to register, So we are going to when you are going to add this register, so here so what we are doing is so we are going to send some data from this form, and that data will be first coming to our this data will first coming to our controller, and then through the controller, so we are going to send this user object to the service tab, and through the service tab we are sending it to the DA layer, and the from the DA layer, so we are going to save those data to the database. So that's how we are doing it. So now when you are mapping this one, so in here, so we can directly map it. So we have discussed that there are several ways that we can map. So here we can use the annotation add model attribute, and here so we can map this into a user. So I will add this user class user, and then so we will use model like this. Okay, so now we can directly call to this my user service, and then we can save this user. So here, so I'm going to call to this so before that we need to have an object here. So I'm going to create a private user service property called user service, and this one also auto wired. Okay, and then I'm going to use this user service here, and I'm going to call to this register method. So this will send whether we have successful this save this user or not. So therefore I will use the if condition, and then else, and based on the if condition value, so I'm going to set, okay, I will use model, and I'm going to add an attribute here called message, and if the registration is successful, so I will put the message as successfully registered. Or else, so that means if anything went wrong, so then so I will put the message as error occurred. Okay, successful registered and error occurred. So then I will return this user into registration successful. So registration successful page. So now we need to create this registration successful page. So I will go to views, and I will create a new JSP file. I will name this as registration successful finished, and here I'm going to display the message. This one, but in my machine this method is not working because of some issues. So therefore I'm going to add some additional configuration here. So that is, I'm going to add a declaration here. So that is el ignore is el ignored equal false. Okay, like this. So we will change the title as title into registration. Successful. Okay, so now we will run this application and we will see whether our application is going to save some data to the database. So we will run this one now. Okay, I'm going to fill some data here. And I will click register. Okay, so we got some issues. So let's see what is this issue. Okay, that the problem comes with this the directory I have used, so I need to check the okay, sorry, I think this is wrong. So this should be page directory. This should be a page directory. Okay, now I think this will work correctly. So I will resubmit. Okay, now we are getting successfully registered. So I will go to the database and I will browse. So we have resubmitted it, therefore we actually got 2 times our data. But the next problem is, you can see here the password is in the plain text. So normally we are not saving the password in the plain text. To avoid that thing, so that means to fix that one, so we can use another Spring library. So we have discussed at the end of our session, so that we are having in Spring, so we are having this password encoder class under this Spring security core library, the dependency. So let's add that dependency into our environment. So this is Spring security core. So I'm going to the main repository again. So here we can add Spring security core, and I will select the latest version of this one, and we will add it as a dependency. Okay, so we have added the dependency now. So after that we need to create a bean object into this one as well, so as here because now we are having this password converter. So I'm going to this root config file, root fconfig. So we are going to add another configuration here. So because this configuration actually this configuration, so we can configure in the servlet configuration as well, because this one is related to the servlet. So therefore I will go to this web configuration, not to the root. So I will go to the web app configuration, and here I'm going to create another bean. So I'm going to create another bean. So here I will add public. So I'm going to use this password encoder. So now you can see that we are getting it because we have added the dependency. So the password encoder, so then you can give a name like yeah, so we will use the same name here, password encoder. And so here we are going to return a new so we are having different types of password encoders. So in this case we are going to use this bcrypt password encoder. So we will use bcrypt password encoder. Okay. Okay, we need to close this method. Okay, so this is that one. So now in the service layer, so we are going to encrypt this password before. That means we are going to get the hash value of this password before sending to the DAO layer. So now we will go to the service layer again. So here we need to get the user service implementation. So here we are going to save this user, and before that I'm going to create another property here, private. Now we are having this password encoder, password encoder. So I'm going to create a password encoder here, and I'm going to auto wire that bean object to here. So then I will use this passcode encoder here, and I will call to this encode method, and then I'm going to pass the password of this user. So I'm going to get the password from this user object, not the username. So I'm going to get the password, and then I'm going to save this password, the new one. So I'm going to set this new password as the password of this user, like this. So we are getting it and encoding, and again after that we are going to set it. So now if I run this one, so this application, now I'm going to run it. Okay, now we will fill this data here in the register. Okay, the registration is successful. Now we will go to the database. Okay, now you can see the password is encrypted. So that's how we are going to encrypt the password in this case. And another important thing that we need to remember here is, so you might remember that I have used this at model attribute annotation here to directly add the submitted information to this use object. So how I'm doing it, because in my page, so that this will be the home.jsp. so here you can see I'm using these names: first name, last name, username, password, so those things are the values that we are actually sending from this the user side. So those names, that mean the keys of these values, are actually equal to our entity class properties. So if I go here, so this is my entity class. So here properties, the name of the properties, you can see that those are first name, last name, username, password. But here if I change this one, for example, think that without using first name, so I will use f name here. So if I use it like this, now if I going to map it here like this, it won't work, because now the framework, the Spring framework, will be confused, because we are actually passed a key called f name here, but we are asking here to add these post values into this user model, that means user object, but the user object doesn't have an attribute called f name. So in that case we are actually getting an error. So if I run this one now, you can see that so I'm filling the same information here and click register. Okay, now we are getting an issue, okay, error. Why? So now we are having so you can see that, so we are having entity user entry, we are having some issues. That is because we have passing a value called f name here, so from the user side f name, but from our entity side we are having it as first name. So that's one thing that we need to remember. So when you are using this Spring framework to automatically map these values into objects, so then remember that we need to use the names of these attributes. So here this input element, the name of this input element, we need to mention as the property name that we have used in the class. So that is one thing we should remember. Okay, so that's all about this activity. So after that actually we are displaying these two messages as well. So if you are getting any error, so then we will have this error occurred one. So this is how we are going to implement that simple Spring application. So that's all about this video, and hope you got something from this one. So thank you, and let's meet again with another video.